Okay, we're in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 15. We're on lesson 18. By this time, when we finish this lesson, we'll be just about halfway through Proverbs. We're beginning to gather that there's only a few themes that are really going through Proverbs, but every time Solomon restates a proverb or a theme, he adds something to it, another facet that describes either the downfall of the foolish person or the lifting up of the wise person. So let's just start off here. It says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." The word gentle here actually is the word soft. It should be a soft word. A soft answer just seems to help in almost every situation. And yet, if you use a harsh answer, a hurtful word, turning on someone, that does nothing but stir up the situation that you're trying to get through and to work through. I know people who have the ability to use a soft word in every situation and diffuse even the worst situations. And you know one of those people too, because it's our pastor, John Morgan. In whatever situation there is, he uses a soft word to calm the fears and to change the direction of that the conversation is going. I would say to you, if you think that being a bull in the china closet is the way to handle a situation, you need to rethink your thinking, because being a bull in a china closet is using harsh words that are not necessary. Now, I know some of us went to the military and we're in the military, and the military seems to use harsh words a lot. And we come along and we say, but they just fit the circumstances to put that emphasis where it needs to be. And the truth is, that's a lie. That's a lie. Because those words do nothing. You would not want me to be your military general. Because if I was to calmly and softly say something to you and you did not do it, you would be fired or court-martialed. If I could do that. Because if you can't take instruction and respect what I say just by saying it softly and gently and grasp the importance of what I'm saying, then you're not the right person to be working underneath me. Period. The end. Now, I may say to you, drop that bomb over Hiroshima and do it now. I don't have to yell about it. Just go do it. And I expect it to be done. It's what happens in my office for those of y'all who sometimes come and help in my office. It is a gentle and a soft word, and I expect it to be done. And if it is not, I will gently and softly correct you to get it done. If you choose not to do it, I will gently and softly show you where the door is. And people thank me for showing them the door. You don't ever thank someone who's used harsh words for you. You use those harsh words against them as a reason why they're the one who is at fault and not you. And believe me, I'm at fault a lot. At least in people's minds, I am. Verse 2, the tongue. Remember, verse 1's about a gentle answer, dealing with the tongue. And here in verse 2, the tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts folly. Wise people use their words to lead people to trust in the truth. On the other side, fools bubble forth with all these words and all this talk and all this gibber and all this jabbering, and all they're doing is just showing their foolishness to other people. And by the way, there are people who buy into that foolishness because they're fools too. Verse 28, when we get to it, it's going to show that a person who does this very thing, who the mouth of the fools that spouts folly, that folly in verse 28, when we get there in this chapter, is going to be called a sin. Sin, sin, sin. I hear sins of people on a regular basis who just come in and spout their folly. Verse 14, when we get to it, we will find out that he himself, a fool actually feeds himself on his own folly. The more he can say, the more it feeds him to say something else. That's not the way it is with a wise person. A wise person will say something, and then he will begin to investigate what he has said to make sure it is true, and then he will add to those wise things more wisdom as he grows and as he learns. Verse 3, the eyes of the Lord are in every place. Now listen to this. What is he doing with his eyes in every place? He is watching the evil and the good. How many of you have ever heard a preacher say to you, God cannot look upon sin? Oh, I see the hands. Yep, we have. That is based on Habakkuk 1:13 that says, thine eyes are too pure to approve evil, and thou canst not look on wickedness with favor. What they fail to do is to look at the entire context of which a country is coming against the Jewish people. And the prophet Habakkuk is saying, Lord, why are you letting these evil people come and do such mean things to us? And the truth is, when you keep reading in Habakkuk, Lord God is sending those evil people to bring judgment on his people because of the sins that they have done. God's eyes see all evil and see all good. If God is all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-hearing, then evidently he knows, sees, and hears about things that are evil. In fact, he created everything. Not one thing is created. Scripture says that the Lord created everything, and without him nothing was created. Well, if that's the case, where did evil come from? Because if evil was created by somebody else besides Lord God, I want to meet who that person is. But God created it. And then what he did was he separated some things, and he says, these things I am going to consider to be evil. And the people who worship me, the people who love me, the people who care for me, the people who are in a relationship with me will not take part in these things. The whole book of Leviticus is about telling the people who belong to him, who are coming out of Egypt, how to live and be different than the people that are in the land of Canaan of which they are going. He wants his people to look different, act different, talk different, and smell different than the people that are in these countries, the land of Canaan specifically, and the rest of the world. He wants them to be different. God created everything. He sees everything. He sees evil. He sees good. That doesn't mean that he approves of evil or that he has favor on the people who do evil. It just means that also that he sees evil and he sees good. Verse 4, a soothing tongue is a tree of life, and perversion in it crushes the spirit. Here, Solomon is bringing up the tree of life again. You remember the tree of life was in the Garden of Eden. It was a tree by which Adam and Eve could eat from and live for all eternity as long as it ate the fruit of the tree of life. When Adam and Eve chose to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of life was hidden from them so they could not get to it, and it's also hidden from us today. The tree of life is going to return, though, for us to eat from, all of us to eat from, at the end whenever we go into eternity. In fact, there in the last chapter of Revelation, we hear about the tree of life coming back into sight. It's been hidden. What this means here is the tree of life, the tongue, a soothing tongue, can be like the tree of life that gives health, gives healing, gives life, gives growth. And it really is a true statement. The tongue, a sweet, a kind, a gentle, a soft, a loving tongue that speaks loving words can be an incredible healer to people who hurt. Who are hurting emotionally, who are hurting physically, who are hurting spiritually. The tongue can lift those people up. However, on the other side, the perversion of the tongue just will crush people. You ever had a bad day, met the wrong person on a bad day, and they just made you feel worse by what they said to you? Ever met another person, a good person, a wonderful person, a godly person, and what they said to you just lifted your spirits and made you feel better, if even only for just a moment or an hour? For those who have lost loved ones, many of you have said to me, how is your wife doing after the death of her father? And my answer to you is, she is a basket case. You understand. You understand what I mean. When you've lost your loved one for a while, you are a basket case. It is okay to be a basket case. But the greatest thing is for someone to come along with a soothing and smooth and gentle and soft word that says, I know that's how you feel, but trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. And all of a sudden you just feel a whole lot better, don't you? When you're pointed by someone, a wise and righteous person, in the direction you should be focusing on. Every single day, I say in my household when I get up, this is the day the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. It has now become, out of necessity, my favorite verse in the Bible. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen today, but you know what? It doesn't matter, because whether there's life or whether there's death, whether there's injury, whether there's a car wreck, whether there's a fire on your house or whatever, thank you, God, for this day. I am going to rejoice in this day for what you're doing for me. And lo and behold, some of us, a fire in our house wouldn't be too bad to get rid of all that stuff that is controlling us instead of us controlling it. You say, oh my soul, what are you talking about? No. That is a gesture. It's not I shouldn't have said it that way, but that's the way I said it. But you know what I'm saying. Sometimes we gather so much stuff that it just overtakes our lives. And I know from personally being there, I know that when we were completely flooded out and we got to start all over, I like the stuff better that we got to start all over with than what we were hanging on to and controlling. It was controlling us. Lo and behold, fighting a mildew problem in a couch, but not wanting to get rid of the couch because it was the only couch you had. When it gets waterlogged up to the top of the couch and you have to get rid of it and you get a new couch, you go, now I understand why I was sick sitting on that couch. We kept fighting. Some of these things you got to realize, the Lord is looking out for you. And you think this is a terrible disaster. Well, get on past it and say, Lord, you're still in control. You're still taking care of us. And yes, you are. Verse 5 says this, a fool rejects his father's discipline, but he who regards reproof is prudent. Multiple times Solomon has talked about this. In chapter 1, verse 3, he says that the fool who rejects his father's discipline is in fact a fool. In verse 7 says that his heart is hardened. Verse 12:1 says that he is stupid. And it uses the word stupid. I did not really realize as many times as I've read the Bible that the word stupid is in the Bible. Stupid. Just flat stupid. That's more than ignorant. That's stubborn, stupid is what it's talking about. In verse 13:1 and 15:12, not only is he stubborn, stupid, and is he a fool and for rejecting his father's discipline, but he also makes sport of what his father is trying to do to him. He makes fun of his father for trying to correct him. 15:32, Solomon will say, we're not quite there yet, will say that the fool actually is a person who acts that way and hates himself and does not allow his father's discipline to correct those things that would make that person, that fool, better. And in 15:10, which will be 2 in just 4 more verses, it says that the fool who rejects his father's discipline will die in his sin and in that rejection. On the other side, the wise person is mindful of his father's training and the things that will bring him up and make him better. Going on, verse 6 says, much wealth is in the house of the righteous. Now, we're not talking about actual physical money wealth. We're talking about the wealth of the goodness of the Lord that comes to you. Much wealth is in the house of the righteous, but trouble is the income of the wicked. Okay, wealth and trouble. Got to put them together. We're talking about, and he uses this theme many times, and regardless of how he uses it, the result is always the same. If you are a righteous person living in a righteous relationship with the Lord, the income that's going to come to your house, much wealth is going to come. We're not talking dollars and cents. We're talking blessings upon blessings upon blessings of family relationships, of relationships in the community, because all this is about relationships. But if you are a person who is wicked and rejects God, the only thing you're bringing upon you and your family is trouble. Trouble comes your way. Do not be a wicked person. Be a righteous and a godly person so that trouble does not come your way. Solomon once said it like this: do not worry about tomorrow, because today has enough trouble for itself. That is a true statement. Believe me, every one of us has someone in our family, be it a grandchild, a great-grandchild, a child, a spouse, a grandparent, or maybe a parent that's going to bring trouble to you today. The phone is going to ring, and you're going to hear the last thing you needed to hear today, because it's the trouble that's going to come your way. If you don't have any trouble in your family, then I'm going to invite you to come visit my office and answer the phone for about an hour. And you will have enough trouble that day and realize how blessed you are that you trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your path. And you will thank Him that you are not one of those who's having to deal with a family member like the ones that are calling in to my office. Trouble comes your way. Trouble. Let me tell you how I answer some troubles. Had an email this week for a young man who's off at college. No parents. He got fired from his job. Now he doesn't know how he's going to pay his bills, and he's going to be evicted. And they're already ready to evict him out of his little apartment off at college. And I cannot tell you everything he said because it's just too close to home still. But let's put it this way. He was a bartender at a bar, but it wasn't just a bar where you go eat. You didn't go eat dinner there. You actually... Never mind. He got fired from that. And he thought he got unjustly fired from it. And then he just listed out all the troubles that were coming his way because of all the other things going on. And being fired was the last thing. Now, how did I handle that? I wrote him back his email and I said, listen, God must have something really important for you in your life for Him to get you out of all those wicked, sinful places at one swipe. Because most of us, He just hits us up on the head at one little wicked thing we're doing. But this guy, every wicked thing he was doing just collapsed on him in one swipe. And I said, God must want you out of there so bad because He must have something for you to do. And you've been in all the wrong places, doing all the wrong things. And now you've called out to the church for help. And guess what? Your church is going to help you, but not without you realizing that you're not going back to bartend in a strip joint. You're not going back to doing these other things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because God has a purpose for your life. If a person cries out to God, we are to listen. Now, some of us would say, Well, wait a minute. He needs to prove himself that he's not going back. Listen, if we wait for him to prove himself not going back, and we don't help him finish up so he can graduate at the end of the summer, he's going to go back to that thing, and he's going to hate us. And it wasn't enough money to spit on. Most of us probably spend more money than what he needed in a week going out to eat. You follow me? Because so many of us don't cook anymore. We eat out. Do you know how much money you spend eating out every week? It's staggering what we do. It wasn't a lot of money. But that person needed help. He needed to get away from his troubles. And I wanted to help him get away from his troubles because he called out to the Lord for help. Verse 7, the lips of the wise spread knowledge, but the hearts of fools are not so. You know, wise people associate with wise people, and fools associate with fools. I'm always amazed whenever I look back at people and see where people are and find out things. I'll just give you an example. Okay, we had a governor here in the state of Texas who became president, George Bush. Then we had a person followed George Bush by the name of Rick Perry, who became the governor. Now, do you know the rest of that story? How long had Rick Perry and George Bush known each other? A long time. They ran around together. They were cheerleaders together in college. They went back. You got it, okay? Well, then you turn around and let's go back to the Reagan years. Everybody that Ronald Reagan brought into his council group and on his cabinet were people that he ran around with, people that he knew. Wise people stick together. If you're a fool and you're getting nowhere fast, do you think you might help yourself by switching groups? In other words, switch groups. If you feel like that you need to be doing something else with your life and you like what's happening over there, go join that group and get away from this group that's tearing you down, that's keeping you torn down. Go be with those who are moving and shaking instead of those who are sluggards and eating on welfare. Where do you want to be? Wise people. Fools' hearts are not so. Wise people spread knowledge. Wise people share their knowledge with each other. Fools think they already know everything they need to know. They keep spouting it out. Verse 8. The sacrifice of the wicked. The sacrifice. That means like a worship thing. The offering of a wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. Every act of an evil person is a stench in the nostril of the Lord. That's what the word abomination means. A stench in the nostril. You want to know what a stench is? I can tell you what a stench is. Go over there on Highway 3 and drive from about Scarsdale, go down to Clear Lake City Boulevard. As you pass by Dixie Farm Road, you're going to smell a stench. It was there this morning. It's been there for a month. There's a sewer backup over there or something like that, or a grease trap or something. Just stinks to high heavens. It is a stench in my nostrils every time I go by there. And the problem is I go home thinking, how do I wash my nose out to get all this stench out of it? This stink that's there. That's the way a sacrifice of a wicked person is to the Lord. Oh, we're worshiping you. We're giving you an offering, but you're a wicked person. That's a stench to the Lord. It is. But the prayers of the Lord, oh no, they're not a stench. They're a soothing, smooth, smelling aroma to the Lord, something that is his delight. Verse 9, the way of the wicked is abomination. Up there, it's the offering, it's the sacrifice. Here in verse 9, it's the way, what they do, the way they walk, how they operate, how they live their lives. That is an abomination to the Lord, how wicked people do what they do. But to the one who loves him, loves the Lord, who pursues righteousness. The Lord loves the one who pursues righteousness. You're not going to hit the mark every time. You're not going to dead center the arrow in the middle of the target every time. You're going to mess up. But you know what? The Lord understands that. He sees your heart. He knows your heart. He knows the understanding of what you're trying to do. And it is a delight to Him, and He loves you. Stern discipline, number 10, is for him who forsakes the way. He who hates reproof will die. Now, here starting for several verses, we've got a different way the Proverbs are put together. Here, in these Proverbs, for the next few verses, the second clause expands on the first clause. In other words, he who hates reproof will die. Stern discipline is for him who forsakes the way. And then we add to it, he who hates reproof will die. Stern discipline requires reproof. It's interesting here because this word discipline, we're talking about extensive, demanding training, firm training. Many years ago, here at Sagemont Church, we had a person who was teaching a Bible study class who got off on some false theology. Well, we have always said, and our pastor has always said, we are to protect the pulpits. We are to protect the teaching within this church without asking the pastor approval, without asking our executive pastor's approval, or anyone's approval. And the moment I found out about it, I immediately approached this person and said, this is what I have heard. It is hearsay to me. I have heard that you've been teaching this, and this. Is that true or is it not? Or do we need to go correct somebody who's telling us wrong? And the person looked at me and says, that's what I believe and that's what I've been teaching. And I said, that is not what our pastor tells us to teach. He is our under shepherd and we are to teach his theology or go someplace else. And I said, today is your last day to be a teacher. This is your last week. He said, oh, I'll change my teaching. I said, no. You'll now have to prove that your theology has changed. Because whether we're protecting the pulpit out there, or we're protecting this table that's a pulpit, or we're protecting a round circle where the people are laying their Bible in their laps, and their laps are the pulpit, we have to protect the teaching that is happening in this building. After I found out all that, I went to tell the preacher about what had happened and what I'd said, and he agreed with all of it and was very thankful for it. First of all, he was thankful that he didn't have to handle it. He has staff members to handle these things. And if we're not teaching the theology that we're supposed to be teaching, we need to go someplace else. But the problem was, the response to me, so you'll understand, was, I know better and we're going to root all you false teachers out, including the pastor. And that's the reason I said, no, you've taught your last time. You've taught your last time. Well, what if I change? Well, it's going to take some stern and some firm discipline upon you, and we're going to watch you. We're going to put you in what we're going to call a watch care status here at the church because of what you believe. And we will watch you, and we will have discussions with you. And if sometime you have grown to the point where your faith and your belief is back where ours is, or is where ours is, then we will allow you to be a teacher again. But I want to teach now. I'm sorry, you can't teach now. I'm sorry. Now, Brother Jim, you're being so mean. He wants to teach. We're not going to let him teach false, wicked things. You follow me? I think I spent way too long on that.